I'm just going to be a geek with you right now because I just love everything you're doing, but we'll just get into it. I wanted to start with talking about your title you have in your bio as a multi-hyphenated filmmaker, and I think that's so cool, and that's so true. And I was wondering if you could talk about that title you gave yourself and why. Yeah.
I think I have an issue a little bit when there seems to be sometimes a distinction when people say the word filmmaker and people automatically just go into like director or director writer mode. And there's a distinction between producer and filmmaker. And so, and I'm guilty of it too, you know, like I'll sometimes say my director, or I'll say, you know, our director. And sometimes I'll say our filmmaker, or, you know, my filmmaker. But as a producer, you're a filmmaker too. And so I think, so then, you know, if I also write and direct and act, I like to make the distinction, you know?
Yeah.
And I started off as a writer actress and then got into producing. And that's what I've had the most success at. And I really enjoy it. But I also am, you know, writer actress. And then I started directing. And so I've directed 2 short films and want to continue doing that. And so it's just really, it's been difficult because I don't want to limit myself to producer because that's how everyone sees me as. But then to say also writer, director, actress, you know, and so I'm always struggling with the title or what to call myself. And so sometimes I'll say, I think on certain things I've just said filmmaker and actress, because to me a filmmaker encompasses a, you know, a director, writer, producer, but most people just look at filmmaker as being a director, you know, not the producer.
Right.
So then I'm like, okay, well, a storyteller tells stories. And how do you tell stories? As a writer, a director, an actor, a producer, you know? So I played with it. And that's why even when you said that, I'm like, what title did I say? Because I'm always it, you know? And I even have bios specific. Like I'll cater my bio, like the framing, if it's something that's really, you know, I'm trying to show my, I don't know what you say, weight or credibility as a producer.
Right.
Yeah. And then if I'm also trying to do something that's getting seen more as the writer director, I kind of cater towards that. And it does get hard. And you didn't ask this, but I'm just going to say it anyway, because this is you know, a film festival specifically geared towards women filmmakers.
Right.
You know, in the beginning, or not beginning, but early on, people would tell me, oh, don't tell people that you also act or you also, you know, write and direct. Like, just say you're a producer because it will take away from the producing. Like, you
really? Okay.
And I'm like, but I do it all. And I feel like that's a strong suit as far as being a well-rounded filmmaker, storyteller. And then I started wondering, well, men do that all the time. Like, why can men be multi-hyphenates and it's seen as like so cool and so amazing?
Yes.
Women, no. As a woman, it's like, oh no, just say you're a producer. And so I always kind of felt like, no, I'm not gonna do that, you know.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. And I mean, you kind of answered that a little, my next question, but I was curious, like, what got you into the film world? Like what drew you in?
So I actually started off as a journalist before being a filmmaker. And I always wanted to be an actress. And I, you know, I took theater classes, and, you know, again, as a kid, I'd put on plays for my parents and their friends. But it just didn't seem like for me, like in my world, the arts were very supported in my family, but it was always, you know, a hobby or something you support. It wasn't a career. And so to me, I started thinking about like broadcast journalism because I love writing, I love meeting people, and but it seemed like a career. And so my degree was in broadcast journalism, and then it still combined kind of like being in front of the camera or a sense of performance. And so then when I graduated from college, I worked in print journalism as a reporter. I worked for the Dallas Morning News.
Oh, cool.
But I was pursuing acting. So that's when I got an agent, started taking acting classes and going on auditions. And so then slowly over time, I was like, I don't really like the controversy of being a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I like the meeting new people and constantly learning and writing, but it just, I didn't like the negative energy. And so I stopped reporting and then just started writing screenplays, and then continued the acting. And then it was in a film that I was an actor in that I just started going to all the meetings and being like, and again, this is low budget filmmaking where it's all like all hands on deck kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, I can get this and I can find that and I can do this. And over the course of the movie, they were like, you should get a producer credit. And I had no idea like what a producer was or what that means.
Yeah.
But I really felt empowered. Like I wasn't hoping someone was going to cast me in a movie or a show or a commercial. And I wasn't hoping somebody would read my script. And so it was something where I think the skill set of a reporter translated to the skill set of being a producer. And then I just continued on that path. And I was fortunate, to create films, to align myself with other filmmakers in Texas where I lived, producing for them, again, first short films. And then it was kind of like one of those things where you find your community, and I produced for them and then they produced mine, and I acted in some of theirs and they acted in mine. It was kind of like one of those things.
Yeah. And actually, that's so funny. I feel like we're playing off each other in terms of this is my next question. You work with so many amazing filmmakers, and specifically, I'm interested in your relationship with Augustine Frizzle, because it seems like you guys do a lot together. So I was just wondering if you could talk about that relationship.
So this, I'm writing screenplays for fun, and not for fun, like legitimately, but really not doing something with them necessarily. And then when I was talking about that film that I acted in, and then I also was producing, that was my ex and myself. And then we got it distributed, and we met a distributor, and she left and was starting a new company, and it was focused on family and kids entertainment. And so I had written a script with a dog in it because I'm a sucker for dog movies and I'm obsessed with my dogs. And so I kind of wrote for fun. So I sent it to her and she's like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So my ex and I actually made a bunch of like kids, family, like dog movies. And like, again, we did everything. Like I acted in them. We wrote them together. He directed them. They were our dogs. I produced them. I edited them. I did foreign sales. Like we did everything. And so then after doing that a few times, which I kind of looked like into like my film school, I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. And so I was seeking out filmmakers in Texas, Dallas specifically, who are making the kind of artistic films that I wanted to make. And we actually hired a cinematographer on one of our dog movies who had just shot a film that premiered at Sundance. And it was really beautiful and really cool. And the filmmaker was from Texas, and it was co-written by David Lowery, and he edited it. And so then the cinematographer was like, hey, I'm going to shoot a film by this emerging filmmaker. Her name's Augustine Frizzell, and she's married to David Lowery. And would you want to be a part of it? And so then I met Augustine, and we just totally bonded. Like I thought she was super talented, but we connected as more than just working together. So I was an EP on our very first short film. And then it was through that we became friends. And then on her, next short film, I produced it. And then on my short film, she acted in it and was my producer. And so we were both actresses who then were getting into filmmaking and just really wanted to support and encourage each other. Although she was like wanting to create and wanting to be supportive, but she didn't have that kind of producer thing necessarily that I have, if that makes sense. Like she was just trying to encourage me to find my voice and to help me on my film. So she acted in the first one. She was a producer on both of my short films. And then after her short film, produced her feature film. But then I acted in her feature. I acted in A Ghost Story and was a producer on that.
You were great in both, by the way. I love your roles.
They were fun. They were really fun roles. It was nice to have these fun roles that then didn't detract from my producing. And then also too, David Lowery has two producers who are also, you know, have made short films that premiered at like South by and Sundance. And, you know, I produced and acted in some of their short films. So it was kind of like this, you know, collective, so to speak. But it really was about trying to find the artists in my community who were making films that were the types of things I wanted to make, and I wanted to learn from them. And then with Augustine, it was just this really genuine connection and bond of friendship. And then I was really inspired by her. Like our backgrounds were so different, but she's so strong. And then I also saw her crazy, unique talent.
Yeah, no, I got to say that movie, that clip that I showed in the highlight reel, it's just so funny. I mean, everything in that movie is hilarious, but I'm just like this. I'm so glad they had that one on YouTube, so I can put it in the reel.
And I do want to interject something that, again, something that you didn't ask, but I know people have found this fascinating, and I think it kind of is in line with this. So, Augustine and I made Never Going Back. We made it for like no money. We did a Kickstarter campaign. We got a grant, and it didn't turn out like we really wanted. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. And this was right after David had made Pete's Dragon. So she left, went to New Zealand, and was editing the film in New Zealand. And we were constantly talking and looking at stuff. And she was just like, you know, she just really wasn't happy with it. And then it was David's producing partners. Again, we're all friends that were like, I think there's something really special here. And so we'll help you. And we just kind of had this conversation about redoing it. So we took the feature, cut it down to a short. And then in order to make it a real short, because a short film has a beginning, middle, end, you know, reshot a little bit to make it a cohesive short film. That premiered at South by. And then we reshot the feature. So what you saw Never Going Back is not the first one. And a lot of people would be embarrassed by that, but we owned it because we were like, A, what a learning opportunity. B, we're grateful for the opportunity because most people don't get it. And then C, it's just such an example of perseverance, and that failing can be beneficial. Like so many people feel like they fail and then it's it, but it's like, no, how do you take that failure? And again, a lot of people can't reshoot a whole feature, but you can take the lessons and apply it to your next feature, or do another short, or, you know, do something. And so it's all about the mindset. And so I just like to tell that story. Most people don't know about it. And then we found out other filmmakers who said we did the same thing. And again, a lot of people don't talk about it, but Augustine and I were very vocal about it in that, you know, and what we did was we were able to have better money. We were able to get a better cast. We kept some cast members, but Augustine spent a year rewriting the script with the help of me and Toby Halbrooks, who was the producer, you know, David's producer. And I produced the second Never Going Back, so to speak, with Toby and James. And so again, after you go through a really difficult shoot on your first feature and you edit it, like the last thing you want to do is go back and revisit it. But she really wanted it. It was a personal story. It's based on her youth. So she's like, I want it to be right. You know, nothing's perfect. Nothing is ever perfect, but you just don't want it, you know. And so I really thought that took a lot of dedication. To go back and do it and spend the time rewriting it to get the story where it needed to be. And she admits we rushed. I mean, she wanted to make her feature, and so you kind of rush into it. And then we learned so much with the first one. So I just like to share that story.
Yeah, I think I'm so glad you did, because, you know, this community is emerging filmmakers, and you know, I don't think people talk so much about the hard things and the struggles. They just want to talk about the successes. So
and we would not have gotten into Sundance and got picked up by A24, and she wouldn't be on a Directors to Watch by Variety, and she wouldn't have, you know, directed the pilot of Euphoria.
And
we would have got nominated for a Spirit Award had we not done that. Not to say that if you do it, that will happen, of course.
Right, right. Yeah.
She's really talented. And
Mhm.
it was a unique thing, like having a film that is from a woman's POV with young female protagonists who are lower income, and that involves like sex and drugs and is a comedy. Like you just don't, that doesn't happen very often, you know?
No. And that's why I appreciate that film so much. Yeah, and so 7 Days,
Yes.
I love that movie. I've watched it now probably like 5 or 6 times. And every time I see it, I notice something new. And yeah, it's always like a delightful surprise because I'm like, oh, that's why they said that and that happened and everything. And yeah, so since that is one of your most recent projects and that just came to streaming recently, right? Was it Friday?
Yes. So it pardon me?
Oh, when did it come to
Yes.
like on demand or
exactly just recently? So we did have a theatrical release, which was amazing, and it was also like 30 screens across the US, which is incredible for such a small film. That was March 25th, and then it just came out online VOD digital April 26th. So just recently got released, you know, and it's on like Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Google Play, that type of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody who's watching YouTube and here definitely should check it out. And I can tell just following you on Instagram and everything how you know, personally attached you are to this project and passionate. And I was wondering if you could kind of walk me through your producing style when it came to like working on this film.
Yes. So I think I wouldn't say this was a unique thing because again, you know, so many people wonder what is a producer, and a producer can come on at various stages, right? You know, a producer could actually get the material and option it and then hire a writer and a director. A producer can work with a writer director and they have the concept and then they work with them on the script. A writer director can come with a script and say, this is what I want to make. Do you want to produce it? And then the producer goes out and raises money. And also, you know, helps with rewrites and that type of thing. Sometimes, you know, I've been brought material from a writer director that's like, I've already gotten some financing. I need help with some, you know, various things. Well, in this case, I was approached by Duplass Brothers Productions. It's July of 2020. So this is like crazy, you know, crazy COVID. And I did a producing lab with Film Independent years previous to that. And my mentor, you know, at the end of you have mentors along the way. And then at the end of the producing lab, which was a month in Los Angeles, they reached out to various, you know, producers, filmmakers in the industry saying, would you mentor this person? And that person would say yes or no. So they reached out to Mel Eslin, who's president of Duplass. And she was my mentor. And so we, you know, got together, and then we, again, a shared connection, and I got to know her as a human being, not just as this, you know, president of a production company.
Right.
And she's also multi-hyphenate and a badass.
Yes, she is.
And we bonded on like personal life things too. And so we stayed in touch, talked about various projects. So when she reached out to me in July of 2020, she's like, I don't know where your head's at producing because of the pandemic and getting back on set. She's like, but I have a really special project and we're trying to nurture these emerging filmmakers and these diverse films. And so she's like, because of the pandemic, because of our bandwidth, we can't be there. And so what we want is a producer who we trust that can be a creative producer, because this is the director's first feature, and a person that can oversee logistics so they can handle the production. And then we're going to kind of come on board more when it's post, although it was through Duplass. So it was like, you know, I still had the support of what Duplass is, you know, like, and so I had the support and framework, so to speak. So I wasn't out raising money. And so it got brought to me with, here are the filmmakers, here's the script. And because the Karan Soni co-wrote it with Roshan Sethi, who directed it. And then they co-wrote it together, and then Karan acted in it. And they are creative partners and life partners. And Karan is on a TV show with Geraldine Viswanathan on the show's called Miracle Workers. So they were like, we want Geraldine to be in it. So they kind of wrote it with Karan and Geraldine in mind. So when it came to me, it was like, kind of, here's like the package. But you still have lots of creative choices to make throughout the process. So basically from that moment on, and what we did is I read the script, loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a Zoom with Karan and Roshan, fell in love with them. And it just felt right. And so from that point on, you know, I was a creative producer and then oversaw the production in this crazy time. I will say that Roshan is also a doctor. Right. And he was a Harvard MD, in fact. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to get back on set during a pandemic, pre-vaccine, like knowing more about medicine or different ways to handle it, I'm going to feel good with a doctor, you know, as a director. And he took safety on set as much, you know, as seriously as I did. And so then we were like, you know, going through it, like, how do we shoot it? And, you know, getting the cast and the rest of the cast and the crew and the locations, keeping everything in mind that this is a small budget film. And my job, or what I think about, is how do I best get the director's vision to come to life on screen with the parameters we have, which is typically budgetary, right? And so, you know, that's when you're choosing, well, we can't do it this way. Let's come up with a way that's less expensive, or, you know, the approach. But I'm always still trying to think of the vision and then also the safety and health and well-being of the cast and crew. And so, you know, and kind of following like the Duplass model of having this true independent spirit mind of like, let's go away and film. So we were like, that both creates this family vibe where you're separated from your life and you're just really focused on the film, and then you become a family. But then it was also safety. It's like, now we're filming in a bubble. We're not filming in LA when everyone's going back home to family. We're out in the desert. So we found a location. I actually found a location out in the desert where we all kind of quarantined before shooting. And then we were quarantined in a bubble filming while we shot it. And then we just approached everything from a story standpoint and from keeping the cast and crew safe. And we really had an amazing time filming.
Yeah, that's great. And this time is going so fast, and I have I feel like a lot more questions, but I see that a question just came in on the board from Jessica Liu. So I'm just going to read that, and then maybe I'll ask a real quick question after that, and then we'll close down. Hi, Liz. Thank you for the amazing tips. Really enjoy your work. What kind of projects are you attracted to producing wise currently, or for your next project? And any advice for upcoming directors or writers in attaching experienced producers to their projects?
Oh God, that's a lot, several questions in there. I think maybe because of my journalism background, I really am inspired by true stories, or inspired by true events, or at least feelings, you know what I'm saying? It's like, to me, it's got to feel authentic in whatever capacity, even if it's imaginary. And I just want an emotional connection to it, whether it makes me laugh or cry or get scared. Like, I'm not genre specific at all. I feel like in the world, you need to have a unique voice. And I just tell people, be really specific. The specificity is what creates the people responding into it and makes it the themes more universal. When you hone in on your specificity, be bold and be strong, but be simple. And so try to, like, if it's your first feature, try to create it where it's like just only a couple locations, a couple of actors. The more contained and the smaller you can create it, the easier time you're going to have to make it, because it's not going to be as expensive. There's not so many variables. And then I would just look, whatever you write, look at the producers that are making films that are similar in, it doesn't have to be like a similar story. It's just tone, style. and reach out to them, but then also say, do you know any emerging producers? Because the thing is like, for me now, I'm still looking for the same things I looked at before, but there's a level of sustainability. And so when I'm making these low budget films for first time feature filmmakers, I can't stay at that level forever. I've got to continuously work up to build my career. But yet at the same time, we still need people to, bring up the next, group of filmmakers. And so there's emerging producers that want a chance. So it's like, find, go to film festivals and look at the producers that made a short film that you thought did really well, and they might want the chance to produce a feature. It's like, maybe reach out to, established producers, but then also look to the emerging producers too. That would kind of be some of my advice, and just make connections and make real connections. Like, connect with people on a real level, not about what can you do for me. Get to know people, and then it'll happen organically, which is the best way.
Yeah. That's great. That's so helpful for everyone listening. So my final question is, because I feel like you're leaving a legacy. Just watching all your work back to back is just like, whoo, like I feel like you're really doing something. So I wanted to ask you, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave through your work?
I've thought about that, and I mean, I definitely I'm always trying to find the stories that either come from underrepresented communities, or like the unique points of view, and that again that start a conversation, make people think, make people feel, whether it's allow people that are in the audience to not feel so alone, or to have people see something that they never saw before, and then now maybe look at the world differently. And I guess for me, I want to make movies that in 5 years or 10 years from now still are impactful, or, it's like that are almost like timeless, because again, I don't have to only make socially relevant films. They can be purely entertaining, it can be everything. It's like, from something really important and topical to something that just makes you laugh, but all of the things that I make, I would love for it to be something where years later you can watch it and it's like, it still hits you. It still makes you feel something.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh my God, I just got to say real quick, I watched Burroughs yesterday, and I don't know when people will be able to see that, but it's a short film. Can you just talk about that film real quick?
Yeah. So it's playing the festival circuit right now. It premiered at Tribeca. We just recently won, we won several awards, but we just won an award that makes us qualify for the Oscars, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. And eventually we'll put it online so everyone can watch it. But we filmed on the Tohono O'odham Reservation Nation, which is in Arizona and in Mexico. So it's I think the second largest nation, in the United States. But what's interesting, or extra interesting, is that it's got land on 2 countries. And so it's a sovereign nation with land in the United States and Mexico. And because of the border, there's all these issues. Yeah. And so basically the story is about a young Tohono O'odham girl who discovers a Hispanic migrant who had crossed the border with her father, but then got displaced. They don't speak the same language. The indigenous girl speaks Tohono O'odham in English. The Hispanic girl only speaks Spanish. So they can't speak the same language, but they develop a friendship. And the indigenous girl just wants to help the other girl. They're both 6 years old. And she realizes, my grandmother speaks Spanish too. She speaks English, Spanish, and Tohono O'odham. So it kind of takes place over one day, where they travel over tribal lands in the Sonoran Desert, and takes her to grandmother's house. But in the backdrop, you see all these issues, that's affecting the nation has nothing to do with them. It has to do with U.S. policy, border patrol, the cartel. And so it was a really unique experience, again, working really closely with my director. And we went to the nation several times and even had to pitch the film to the Tohono O'odham Nation. And they voted and created a law that they gave us permission to film there.
Wow.
And we spent a lot of time with the community and we had two Tohono O'odham executive producers who served as the consultants in prep and production. But it really was a thing where I used my journalism skills.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's a really beautiful, timely, sweet story that I wanted to get out in the world. And the director and I worked really closely on the film, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. Oh my God. It just, it makes you feel things. And I definitely a timeless one. So it was great. But yeah, we've come the end of time. So I just, there's so many other things, but obviously, we'll keep in touch with Instagram.
Yes.
And
happy to do another Q&A or more in-depth thing in the future.
Yes.
Anytime.
That'd be awesome. I know.
I definitely want to help, because I've learned along the way, and there's nothing like doing. Like, the best way to learn is just kind of jumping in the pool. But if I can share any insights and share any lessons, as well as just encourage and inspire, I love doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And, have a great, I guess, rest of your day. It's Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everybody go see 7 Days. You can find it online. It's so good.
And I have my next feature is premiering at Tribeca. It's called Acid Man. And then that'll probably play the film circuit and will be coming out. That's with like Thomas Hayden Church and Diana Agron. I'm excited about that film too coming up.
I hopefully I can screen that one, and then maybe I'll interview you.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
So yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I love what you're doing, and thank you to the film festival for having me.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Bye.